Welcome back to Sow, Grow and Cook. It's the 22nd of July. I thought it's time for a garden update. We've had such weird fluctuating weather conditions since April really, and things have suffered, things have come back. Let's just see how everything has progressed to this point. So back in April, I was working on a little perennial flower bed in the not forest garden, but a little potager area full of herbs and fruit bushes and trees and all sorts of things growing in here. And it looked quite neat and Spartan, and the plants were tiny, and you saw a lot of soil and rocks. Let's see how they're coming along now. So here we've got the sweet pea hazel cane teepee. And those sweet peas have really climbed up. I've had to give them some support with lots of sticks and twigs and baling twine, because they have tiny tendrils. They don't loop around like beans. They need to kind of cling on with these tendrils. Anyway, they seem to be doing all right. And they are a mass of beautiful colors. And the fragrance is amazing, especially on a warm day. Now, we had lupins, and this is supposed to be gaillardia. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful flowers, doing really, really well. I think this little one is a penstemon, getting a little bit drowned out by some of the more vigorous growing flowers. And of course I've got, as usual, lots of self-seeded or volunteer nasturtiums. I hadn't planted those. They just came up on their own from the original planting I did about 3 years ago. And we've got some calendula, some of which I threw seed down, and some came from previous plantings. Move along to the yarrow or the achillea. I was hoping for something other than white, but it's white that I've got there. It's still very attractive to pollinators, so that's fine, and it looks lovely in cut flowers. The Aquilegia or columbine has finished flowering, but there's some seeds developing. I could save those and just scatter them elsewhere. They've been a really pretty orange and yellow variety. But look at some of these sweet peas. Aren't those stunning? Very nice. You might gather from some of my plantings that I don't really have a colour scheme. I just like all colours, and whatever I plant, if the colour scheme works, it's just a happy coincidence. Otherwise it's just a riot of clashing colours. But I don't mind, and I don't think the pollinators mind either. Moving around to the middle bed, some more lupins, which I need to deadhead a bit so they continue blossoming. Anna, I think, has one of these growing in her garden. Now, I can't remember what it's called, but she did name it for me. It's very pretty. If you're watching, Anna, just let me know what this was called. More calendula and some hollyhocks that are about ready to blossom. So lots of colour, which I'm really, really happy about. And of course the lavender's doing really well. Hazel stick teepee of shelling peas. The variety's called Telephone, and it grows very tall if it's got support. This one's about 6.5 foot tall. It's pretty tall. The peas are very tasty. I highly recommend this because you can grow quite a lot in a small space because you're growing vertically. Delicious. Very sweet. Okay, we've got 2 beds of leeks, young leeks. Now I've topped up these beds with our own compost, which is really nice compost, except that it's got a million weed seeds in it. So I have to go around periodically pulling these weeds out. Meanwhile, I think there's some birds that are digging these up, looking for worms, and I have to keep replanting them. And a second bed of leeks. They're doing really well. You can't see them especially well because they're still quite young, and they're surrounded by millions of little weeds again. But periodically I just come out here and pull them out before they get too big. Right, here's the 2 courgette or zucchini plants that lovely Helen gifted me when I was having trouble with my courgettes after the frost. They're doing really well. We've got lots of young fruit, just about ready to pick. In fact, I could pick them now, but I want them a little bit bigger. But they really like it there. And some calendula. And this is where the potatoes were, the early or second earlies, the Charlotte and Nicola potatoes. They've all been harvested, and in their place I've put some cauliflower, which are under the netting to protect from cabbage white butterflies, and some Savoy cabbage. I've had to do quite a lot of watering because it's been quite hot and dry since I planted them. Along the back here we've got some tayberries, loganberries, under some nettings. They're starting to ripen. And they are lovely. If I can get them before the birds do. And another teepee full of sweet peas. Again, the smell is just stunning. I've got to keep picking these, otherwise they're going to go to seed and then stop producing. The strawberries here have finished and are sending out runners, many of which I'll collect. Here's another block of flowers. This is called Helenium, and again the pollinators love it. You've got a little bumblebee there, but there's been hoverflies and honeybees and all sorts. And it's just a riot of colour. I absolutely adore these splashes of colour in the middle of the veg patch. This one, I can't remember what it is now. Have I got a label for it? I've got a label somewhere, and if anybody knows what it is, it's not a calendula. It is definitely a perennial because I planted it last year in that spot and it's come back again. It makes a beautiful cut flower. Really is lovely. And some phlox. Again, something I planted last year, and I believe this is echinacea, but it's not quite blossomed yet. It's just getting ready to. And some hollyhocks, which are getting ready to bloom. I think growing these flowers is such a treat, and just makes this such a well-rounded garden. It really, really kind of completes it for me. I really love having the flowers in the veg patch. Now, these beauties are leeks, last year's leeks, which I've let go to seed. And as soon as they've dried off and matured enough, I will cut them off at the stem there and finish drying them off in a paper bag, and hopefully I'll get some leek seeds that I can plant next year. Saving seed is such an important skill to develop. Seeds that you save from your own garden from successfully grown plants tend to grow really well in the area that you plant them in again the following year, because they've acclimatized to the area that you planted them in. And I find the germination rate is often really, really good, sometimes or often better than the commercial ones you buy. Now, the winter squash that was bothered by the late frost we had in the middle of June, or the late frost that I had in the middle of June. My neighbors didn't experience one. Look how well they're doing. They've come back now really, really strongly. Lots of little fruit coming on. The plants, I think they'll soon rump away, and I'm hoping we'll get lots of nice mature fruit by the end of the summer, early autumn. We've still got, oh gosh, 6, 7, 8 weeks yet for them to grow big, but the plants are quite happy now. Compared to how they were in June, I thought I was going to lose them all. Moving over, we've got some parsnips that I grew in toilet roll tubes, and they're coming on really well. Last year I grew loads and they were all forked and they were pretty well inedible. This year I pulled one out that was growing a bit too close to another, and it looked pretty healthy and like a normal parsnip. So fingers crossed. I've had to cover up this strawberry bed, which is a new strawberry bed, because we seem to be getting a second flush of fruit, which is a nice surprise. So I thought I'd cover it up before the birds came and helped themselves. And to the right of them are beetroot. Lots and lots of beetroot, which I should be thinning out and using. And I have done a bit, but I think they'll be okay. They're developing. They're sort of golf ball size now, quite a lot of them. And I've grown the striped ones, which are called courgettes. And I've grown the bolt hardy, the dark red ones. And to the right are some beautiful dark lettuces, which I think are dark rhodon. And these are beginning to bolt, but I have been using quite a lot of the leaves whilst they were growing. They're still okay to eat. And here we go, we've got some Swiss chard. Always a welcome addition to the veg garden, the workhorse of the greens. Really, really enjoy these. Now, I don't know if you remember in the video with Liz Zorab, I was discussing how sad the little sweet corn plants I'd planted looked, because the cold was just not really getting them to grow very well. The cold nights, basically. Well, the weather's changed and we've had a lot of warm weather, and look how well they're doing now. They are, well, the tallest ones are coming up to 4 foot high, and they're beginning to get tassels on the top. The variety is Early Bird. And I bought these as starter plants from Wilkinson's, which is like a cheap department store, do-it-yourself shop throughout the UK. And they had a couple of little tubs for £3 each. And I thought I'd buy them because I only planted some in the Polytunnel, but I thought I'd like to have a longer crop of sweet corn. It's such a treat. And this way we could stagger the harvest. The ones obviously in the Polytunnel, because they're sheltered and in the heat, will be able to harvest much sooner. And these will come a few weeks after, I think. And to their left are the Monchtu, or sugar snap, snow peas, whatever you call them in the USA and in Australia. I love them. They're delicious, and I just find myself snacking on them whenever I walk through the garden. And these guys are really tall. They're about 4.5 feet high. Well over 1 meter in height. And I suspect if I had more stock fencing, which is what they're growing on, if I had more stock fencing going up, they'd probably carry on climbing. As it is, they're trying to latch on to the beans to their left. But again, these were the really sad looking plants that were in the video that Liz shot when she came to visit, talking about how's the garden growing and why things are so slow. But they've really come on, and patience is a virtue, and you've got to have faith that the things will improve. And these really have. They've really grown beautifully now. They've climbed to the top of the canes. They are blossoming and they are setting beans now. There's a little immature English robin. There we go. Very friendly. He's not got the red chest yet. He's still a baby. Hello. Now, do you remember those courgette or zucchini plants that were really sad after the frost in the middle of June? This is what they look like now. They've made a superb recovery, and there are fruit on them. Little courgette zucchinis. They're doing really, really well. I shouldn't have worried. I should have had faith that they would recuperate, because I think now we're going to have just a ton of zucchini. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? How many zucchini plants should a person have? How many is too many? The main crop potatoes beginning to die back. I've planted the variety called Blue Danube. It's a Sarpo variety, so they're meant to be blight resistant. And these are an early main crop, so I don't have to wait till October to plant. They should be ready probably in the next few weeks. Some autumn raspberries that I planted last autumn. And Jerusalem artichokes growing quite tall. Again, I mainly grow these for the stems and the leaves to feed the goats. They have beautiful small sunflower type flowers as well, which are really attractive to pollinators. Right, time to go into the polytunnels. Now, there's a lot of stuff going to seed in this top polytunnel, including the bronze arrow lettuce that I got from the Heritage Seed Library. We ate quite a lot of the lettuce, and then we had a hot spell and it all started to bolt. But as these are a heritage variety, I'm gonna save the seeds. So you've got to wait for these to blossom, and they get sort of a little cottony fluffy thing on them. And you wait till they're really quite dry, and then you can pull the whole plant out, turn it upside down, and gently kind of rub the seeds into a paper feed sack is probably ideal to finish drying. And again, stuff that you grow on your own land tends to produce seed that copes well in the climate that you plant it in. So fingers crossed these will do well, and I'll have plenty of lettuce seed for next year. Right, I've got some celery growing here, which is taking its time. I don't think we're going to get very big juicy stalks, but hopefully it'll be good for chopping up and putting in the freezer, ready for soups and stews. Now I've got some Minnesota midget melons in here. The plant's doing well. It's in a large pot in the raised bed, but the bottom of the pot is cut out so the roots can go down into the soil. So it's not really restrained, but it's taking a long time for anything to really happen. We've got a lot of blossoms and a lot of little female fruit, but nothing's getting very big yet. And I know they're only meant to be small, but they're meant to be bigger than this. And you get a lot that are turning yellow and just dropping off as well. I'm wondering if it's the heat. Maybe it just discouraged the pollinators from fertilizing those flowers. We'll see. We still have several weeks of summer left, so maybe we'll get some yet. The asparagus is all finished for the year. We've got lots of sweet peppers coming. I can't remember which variety this was. Was it lipstick? I can't remember. But they're meant to turn red. Look. It goes all the way up to the top of the polytunnel. Ugh. It really is growing like a jungle. Oh, look at this. We've got a cob developing. I'm going around and tapping the stalks so that we get some good pollination. The pollen comes down from those tassels and has to pollinate each one of these little silks. And each silk, believe it or not, becomes a kernel of corn on the inside, provided the pollination is good. So these silks are really important. So I hope your gardens are all growing really well and that the weather has been kind to you. And that's all for this week on Sow Grow and Cook. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time. Bye for now.